Welcome to The Longer Game, the only show that's dedicated to the future of retail. We bring on real-life people in the retail industry. We talk about their experiences, we share their stories, we apply it to what's currently going on in the market, and we look towards the future of retail. You could say it's Retail Reimagined. My name is Michael Maher. I run a customized, done-for-you service agency called Cartology that helps brands win on Amazon. Now, while my expertise stems in the Amazon field, we bring on a wide array of guests because retail is expansive. You've got e-commerce. Yes, you've got marketplaces like Amazon. You've also got brick and mortar that is evolving. You've got logistics. You've got technology, finance. There are so many aspects to retail, and it's complicated. So we're here to bring you the entire story. Do you think that you have an interesting story and you'd like to tell it on the podcast? Then go to thelongergame.com and fill out a form to be a guest on the show today. You can catch The Longer Game on any social channels: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and our website, thelongergame.com. We've got all awesome guests on this show, so that I will promise. Are you ready to hear more about the future of retail? Let's get down to business. Welcome, everybody, to The Longer Game, the podcast where we talk all about retail. Retail is pretty expansive, and so we can go in a lot of different directions. Today, I have Adam Ortman, the CEO and founder of Kinetic 319, which I also just realized 319 is a Prince song. So if you don't know what it is, go and look it up. But Adam is here with us to talk more about what's going on in his world. So Adam, welcome. Tell us a little bit more about you and what you do so we can get the lowdown on that.
Hey, Michael, thanks so much. And yeah, happy to be here. And great song, by the way. So I'm glad that our brand name kind of aligns with great music. But yeah, Adam Ortman, founder of Kinetic 319. We are a full service agency. We run campaigns on the digital side, on the traditional side. We also work within SEO and content writing for brands all across the country and actually all over the world.
Tell me, we were talking about this before, but let's talk about just cost of advertising right now. Oh my
gosh.
And I will preface this with, I saw the original founder of Native was interviewed several years ago. I think it was like right after the pandemic. And someone said, if you could start a direct-to-consumer brand right now, would you do it? And he said no, because the cost per click via Facebook, 8 years ago was super cheap, and now it's a lot more expensive. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I get the sentiment.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I completely agree with the cost increasing. Maybe yes or no on starting a D2C brand, depending on your product and depending on what you're doing.
And if you're comparing it to when your CPCs were 50 cents and now they're $5, sure, you're not going to start a brand.
Barrier of entry for sure. I mean, we have retail brands on our roster as well. And when we're looking back to, 2016, 2017, our CPCs have increased 100% more, right? So when you're looking at a cost that was $2 back in that time, it's now around $6, $8. So you're actually seeing a huge increase in the cost of media, where before you could throw up some Google ads and spend, $500 a month or whatever it may be and get a good amount of clicks. But now it's becoming much more expensive, and it's honestly having to lead brands to seek other alternatives. And so you see, even with Threads coming out with their ad offering here in this month, actually, it's going to be really interesting to see what those prices are. But also, I always revert back to kind of the philosophies of Adam Smith with his invisible hand, right? When prices go up and competition goes up, you're going to start to see other competitors come in at lower prices to kind of act as a magnet. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with, Threads, or even, if TikTok still remains functional, albeit cheap. It's going to be interesting to see. But as we all know, costs typically don't go down in the downward direction for things like Google or Facebook. I think that those will continue to stay high and get higher.
It seems like it's really just a function of like adoption of platform, and that means greater competition.
Yeah, absolutely. And the ads will go to where the people are. So as the adoption increases, the pool to fish from also increases, and so advertisers want to put their fishing rods into that pool more effectively.
And that, I think, can also lead to a problem as your costs increase. You become very attribution or ROAS focused, or just looking at like what's my return on these ads right now. And long term, you actually really need more people to get into your pool. And we were talking about this, a little bit before we hit
Yes.
record. But I tell people on my team all the time, like, you can't just be an order taker. As an agency, you can do that. It's an option, but you're eventually going to sacrifice market share, sacrifice top line. I'm not. You of course can't drive people into the ground with low return on things for long term. But what's the ultimate goal? And that's what should determine the strategy. And if you just become an order taker and manage to a certain ACOS or certain ROAS, you start to miss the bigger picture. And then what's going to happen? Client's going to come back to you, brand's going to come back to you and say, why are we losing market share? Why are we losing revenue? Well, we did what you asked us to do, but in the reality, the brand
Yeah.
came to you
Yeah.
because they didn't know what to do. So why are you allowing them to dictate to you what the target should be? It should be, I think, a joint venture if you're really partnering with someone.
And there's so much education there, especially when agencies are partnering with brands. You really need to set those expectations of, hey, we can do this, but this is your expectation. These are the results, right? You're going to see if we're just in harvest mode, you're just harvesting from the lower funnel of your campaigns, you're going to see good results for 6 months, maybe,
Yeah.
until that is fully dried up. There's a lot of brands that are not leveraging full funnel, sustainable marketing programs that will allow them to really function effectively for long periods of time. And that's really the goal, right? Businesses are not in business to stay in business for the next 6 months. They're in business to stay in business for as long as they can and be as successful as they can. And you and I were just talking about how even with YouTube right now, when YouTube opened up their inventory to YouTube TV, which is now the second largest subscriber base of the streamers,
Okay.
really cool stuff, because you're able to now get on the biggest screen of a house and very, very cheaply. I mean, I'm talking about views that are half of a penny, 0.001 in some cases. So while they're not necessarily a ROI driving function, they are generating large amounts of awareness for you very, very, very cost effectively. And so there's also some more advanced strategies where you can literally create an audience off of only the people that have seen the YouTube TV ad, and then start re-engaging them lower in the funnel to drive them down. But it's really about, how do I generate as much awareness and full funnel stimulation as cheaply as possible today to drive and refill those pools at the bottom of the funnel where most of the brands want to play anyway.
The full funnel advertising, or just advertising funnel, saying full funnel, it's a little bit of a buzzword. It makes total sense though,
It
but
does.
oftentimes I feel like people are saying, well, we need to go full funnel as a way to say, hey, don't look at this metric that doesn't look so great. Now, people will also say, I don't want to do that kind of advertising because it's low attribution, it's awareness based, and we need to drive return. But I think there should be a mix of those things. And where big brands get it wrong is they're used to their traditional path, and they've oftentimes ignored digital. And so they're thinking more awareness based. They're not thinking about being able to drive, well, one, being in relevant channels, but two, because it's only 20%, which is still a very small percent, but it's only 20%,
Yeah.
even though the customer journey is not linear anymore. So they're forgetting that piece. But then the small brands on the other side don't want to do any awareness because they're focused on the return. And I feel like you got to kind of be somewhere in the middle. So maybe
100%.
walk through
100%.
like, what is when you think of full funnel, what does that actually mean, and what would you even set up campaign wise? Are you thinking different channels? Are you thinking about different types of campaigns? Like, how would you even go about setting that up so brands who are listening get a better idea of like, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah. Well, I think that really the structures of your campaigns should be centered around your audience. So where is your audience? Where are they spending most of their time consuming media in general, right? when you're looking at a quote unquote full funnel approach, which I completely agree, it's probably one of the worst buzzwords that we can come
It's
up with,
true, but it's just you end
but
up
it's a
saying that.
structure.
Yeah.
It's a structure that gives us some scaffolding to marketing structures, right? So I would say that, I let's just give an example of, let's just do a retail brand, right? If you wanted to get individuals to understand about a new sale that's coming up, right? Maybe even like a warming strategy that ups the hype of like something's coming, right? You want to start to get people engaged with your brand very cost effectively. So let's just say a YouTube campaign up top. If you're looking at middle funnel campaigns, you would then create maybe a search campaign that's primarily non-branded, or you'd be going after maybe PMAX campaigns that are targeted in a certain way, leveraging custom affinity targets. And those pools could actually only chase individuals that have watched a YouTube ad, right? So you're actually eliminating a lot of people
Right.
that don't have any idea of who you are. And it's all about that recency. That reach and frequency is really important. And then once they start to come down, you're then going down into your bottom funnel, which may be branded search, which may be remarketing tactics, which may be more heavily promo focused when the promo actually launches. So that's how I would really tailor that type of structure, just in Google Ads alone, if that's what we're talking about. But if effectively measuring those campaign sets is incredibly important. You should not be looking at your sale ROI from a YouTube ads perspective because you are only chasing impressions. So then you would be looking at a good KPI here would be how many, what is your full view watch rate?
Mm.
How much are you increasing the audience pool within your remarketing list mid funnel? Those are really good measures of success
What's the conversion
because
from the initial engagement to more closer to conversion focus? Like just initial view to now more engaged person. Increasing that
in regards
funnel
to
is what you're saying. Yeah.
exactly.
Getting
Yeah.
more
So
people
you're
into
going
the
to
pool
be
so you're not just fishing on the.
pulling people down, telling a story all the way through. Because that's really what you want to do rather than someone typing in, soccer jerseys, right? And then showing up there. They don't even know who you are. So what would be great for that person to do is type in soccer jerseys and also know that they've already seen an ad for your soccer jersey website on YouTube or on TV. I have a higher propensity to click on that one. So then they get into your universe from a non-branded perspective, and then you actually have a greater opportunity to continue to hit them with remarketing ads either in display or email or whatever it may be.
But you
So it's all about just using audiences to pull it down.
and you don't have to. When I think people think about awareness, they're thinking I'm just going after everybody. You can still do targets towards like if someone who is interested in Major League Soccer or whatever
Yes.
FIFA has played FIFA. I mean, I'm thinking about very more specific audiences, but you can still go after people who will have a greater affinity. You're not just targeting someone who's into gardening or watches Twitch all the time. Like you can still be more targeted, but you have to prime
Yes.
the pump. And I think when's the last time that I saw a brand product one time, and immediately I thought I need to buy that and then went and bought it? Probably very low. That's what that
Very,
upper
very
funnel
low.
is doing, is really just creating a little bit of awareness. You're going to get people that are lower funnel because they're already searching high intent. I mean, that happens all the time on Amazon. That's why sponsored products is so hot. People are in search. They're looking. Conversion rates typically higher, much higher than a direct-to-consumer site. So they're going and purchasing. Well, you can start to get those people there, but then you still want to bring new people in and then get them to have greater awareness. And I've always seen it be the case when we look at Amazon Marketing Cloud data, which allows us to see more of the path to conversion, look at what a
Yes.
full funnel approach looks like. You add in new ad types, someone sees multiple ads, the conversion rate always increases. Now, what does that mean? Spend more money, right? I mean, that's of course what Amazon wants you to
Always
do.
wants you to do.
Always wants
Yeah.
you to do. And in a lot of cases it could be beneficial, but I just see that as like a brand awareness. Like people see your brand more. Now they know who you are. They're more likely to purchase because they've got a little bit of an intro.
Yes. I think the whole moral of that story is fill your pool, right? Fill the people that are aware of you that you can fish from. and do it as cost effectively as possible. And what we were talking about before is that that is becoming more and more expensive, but there are still these little pockets of opportunity. I honestly shouldn't even be talking about YouTube because now everyone on this podcast is going to go and start doing YouTube ads.
I don't know that
and
the
then
audience
all my
is
ads are
that
going to be becoming
big.
expensive. So we'll see. But that is definitely an area that is one of those kind of safe havens right now that I can't find media cheaper than that right now. You can't.
Do you think
And
that every
so
brand
it's
should
nice.
take advantage of something like YouTube, or maybe there are only certain brands that you feel like are going to benefit from that?
I think every brand can benefit from awareness.
Okay.
Every single brand. And when you're dealing with, and again, I keep on going back to awareness is really important and trying to be as cost effective as possible. So when you are looking at, even if you put $50, $25 a day, you will see more positive results in your lower funnel. Because if you're getting half of a view at a half a penny, you're getting thousands of views. And that's going to absolutely help you. And who can't afford $25 a day in regards to those types of campaigns? Even $5, right? So there is no minimum, but I think that it is important for you to tell your story and again, fill that bottom of the funnel with upper funnel strategies.
You have to be targeted and segmented in what you're doing so that you can
Yes.
get the better
Yes.
return. And one of the things that when I go and audit accounts every single week from a brand, there are two things that there's a couple things that I normally see. One is there's just no clear strategy. You are spending on ads, which you have to do, at least on the Amazon side, but really anywhere to drive an audience to you. You have to spend on ads. But what are you investing in? Because for me, and especially on Amazon, you're spending money on ads. It should be driving greater organic visibility. And if you're not, and if you don't have what I call search equity, so you are advertising and you sell soccer jerseys and people are looking up soccer jerseys, you better rank on page 1 for that term if that's really what you're going after. You don't really have any of that search equity.
Absolutely.
So you have to be more targeted in your approach. And one of the things that, other than no strategy, campaign structure is just all a mess. It's not very segmented. There's branded stuff and non-branded stuff in the same campaigns, and so you don't have control over spend. And that could be one, maybe the person that's running media at the brand is like, well, I want these campaigns to look good, so I'm going to hide stuff together. Maybe agencies are doing that. Maybe they're not even nefariously doing it. Maybe they just don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, one of the things I see all the time, and we discussed this a little bit, is the discovery spend. There is so much spend on broad or phrase match related terms or targets. And I think that's a problem because it's really hard to drive the search equity that you need with those terms. And to your point, things are just getting kind of crazy.
They are. And, like we said, the sub $1 click is behind us, well behind us. And now with, you call them discovery spend, I call them harvesting spend, which are campaigns that sit on the top of the funnel that are broad and now even phrase match, which we'll get into, are basically looking at how the platforms and these ad engines are aligning your product with search queries. Because that insight is incredibly important because it feeds your more exact match or highly targeted media in the rest of the campaigns. And so it is becoming more, in this close variant trend that we're seeing across the platforms that are your broad match, all of your phrase match, it is going buck wild. And it's crazy. And so many brands don't realize how much wasted spend they're just blowing because Google wants to align your soccer jersey to lawnmower tent. I don't know, like weird stuff.
I've used that before, by the way, so I think it kind of makes sense.
There you go. Makes sense.
That's my number one go-to lawnmower tent is a soccer, it's a soccer jersey. But I've seen some crazy
it could be like
stuff.
a moo-moo, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It is a little crazy, and I don't think people think about that. I don't know if you've heard this, but I feel like people say it's the most cost-effective way to drive a click or a visit to your page when you do broader phrase match. Here's why I think they're saying that. I disagree, but they're saying that because the CPC is lower, because it's less structured spend, and so it's not as high intent.
But is it the click you want?
Right. And are you getting enough velocity on that term, at least on the Amazon side, to generate more sales velocity in that term and then create the search equity that you need. So yes, the CPC might initially be lower, but it's not as targeted. You're not able to drive the long-term results you want, and CPC should not be the only thing that you're thinking about.
No. I could drive clicks all day, every day, Michael, and spend tens of thousands of dollars. Why does any of that matter if none of them are converting or hitting the KPIs that you're really setting that are appropriate? That's the biggest thing. And I mean, Bing, I know we're getting into a little nitty gritty here, but I think that might be a good thing for some of the listeners. Bing's phrase match has been broad match for a while now. And they get real crazy with the phrase match in Bing. And over the last month for Google, I've seen it become the same. And you were just talking about with Amazon.
Amazon's been doing it with broad and phrase. And I've even seen some things with certain sponsored brands, exact match.
Wow.
That's even starting to get more broad. And I'm curious on your take, because a lot of people say, okay, well, Amazon is just wanting to get more money, which I think makes sense, but I don't know that it's quite that simple. Because when I think about Amazon, whether it's thinly veiled or not, it always comes back to being the most customer-centric company in the world. So how would just them generating more money help them to be the most customer-centric company in the world? I don't think it's like that. And I've talked with people at Amazon when you say, man, you guys are really out to get us. A lot of the people that work at Amazon now, we're talking about people that are, kind of middle of the work funnel, if we're thinking of, full funnel people at Amazon. But those people are like, I think you think more about it than we do. Like, we're not out to get you. We're not thinking about it that much.
I think that they're putting a lot of eggs in the AI basket, because I think that if you give the system more free reign, that the AI will learn more effectively. More data equals faster learnings. But again, when you start a campaign, a lot of brands cannot give it 6 months to start really fine tuning and adjusting if you had everything on broad match, right? Going or phrase match, and then letting the AI tweak and tweak and tweak down. So I think it's a little bit of a mix. I mean, in no way is Amazon and Google and Meta a charitable organization.
For sure.
But I think that they are also being very, very technologically driven in that way, because that's what they always say. The AI will filter out all the bad data and all the bad traffic, which will it?
But you're saying that you think like these brands don't have 6 months of spend to allow for that. Like, they have to be a little bit more fiscally responsible in the first couple months.
I think the accountability that brands require on budgets today does not allow for that runway.
Yeah, okay.
There's no way. If my clients came to me and, in month 2 we weren't seeing any good results because we were all on broad match, they would fire me.
Right.
Why would they? Why would they keep me around? Could they do it better themselves? I don't know. But I think that's why there's brains like yours and mine that understand the nuances of these platforms, and also understand that there are ways to control and create guardrails that basically make us good stewards for our clients' budget.
You brought up something about education, and I think that's super wise, and we don't have a course. I mean, I've created a course for CXL on selling on marketplaces, and so I created that for them. That's there. It's part of their e-commerce mini degree. Super cool. There should be more education in the space, but we're not selling a course or teaching you how to do what we do. However, I think a good agency, a good partner, it could be even, a solopreneur, they're walking you through the whys, and that's the education of, look, we are on a rank campaign. We are willing to something that's super competitive. It's going to have a higher CPC, and we're intentionally being more aggressive in bidding so we can get you more visibility at top of search. We're willing to sacrifice ROAS on this, but it doesn't end there. The reason is what we're investing in is that term and the organic visibility. So we're not necessarily looking at ROAS only to determine effectiveness. We're actually now looking at your organic position. We're going to look at search query performance report and determining what your share purchases are. So all those things are part of the relationship. And if you don't explain that to people, they're going to leave because they don't get or understand it. You eventually have to get results. But like, if there's no understanding of that, that would be really challenging because they don't know what they don't know. And I feel for brands in that regard.
Absolutely. And that we meet with our teams, our brand teams, about every week, every other week, depending on the type of campaign. But you have to let the numbers tell the story, and you have to be a good communicator into why that story matters. And so we have, quarterly reviews, we have our annual planning sessions. Those types of things are really, really great sessions for us to give the why, right? And set those expectations and, educate folks, because you're right. A lot of individuals don't understand the funnel, don't understand really the dynamics of larger marketing structures and things of that nature. But I love what you just said about the organic play, because a lot of groups do not take that into consideration. Where when you are stimulating marketing, it's one of those very fun situations where all of the boats will rise with the tide. So you're going to start to see more of your organic searches popping up. You're going to start to see your direct searches popping up, and or direct visits, excuse me, popping up, and that's really important. And I think that very short-sighted brands, if they say, this isn't working, let's turn it all off, they actually are faced with a larger, steep
Yeah.
decline than they would have otherwise. And I don't think that they realize that in a lot of ways.
Something that on the Amazon side that we've measured for a little while is something called tacos.
Yeah,
What's your?
I love
I
tacos.
love tacos. Love a good margarita. Don't have any right now. Maybe later this week,
Oh,
but
maybe later.
maybe later. Yeah, I mean it's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
Right? Taco Tuesday. But it's
Amazing.
it's ad spend versus your total sales, because we know that that's what's driving total sales.
Oh my gosh.
So
I
marketing
love this.
efficiency
Even
ratio is that what you would measure, right? MER.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk a
Yeah.
little bit more about that, because I think that that's really wise, but you have to know what that even means and how you have to reframe how you look at stuff.
You do, and it's very, it's breaking down the silos of all of your of looking at your business as a whole, rather than saying this is generating this is generating this. And it's really important. And I love this type of conversation, because when we have a view in some of our dashboards that we make where we look at total spend across the business coming from the sales data, and then looking at our media spend or even media impressions. You actually get to see a correlation there between, hey, we're spending more and we're holistically getting more. And that's really what you need to
Yeah.
be looking at, because if it's not moving in that direction, something is very wrong.
Sure. Then you start to go and
Yeah.
say, hey, our impressions are
Let's
going
dig
up.
in.
We're not seeing
Yeah.
sales. Let's start doing efficiencies by channel, and maybe we cut some of those things out. But where I think a lot of small brands get it wrong is, and it could be a function of a bad partner, someone who's not as knowledgeable. You could easily spend 5 to 10 grand on ads, not see anything, have no explanation of why, and you're like, well, I hear brands say we shut it down because we weren't getting the return that we want. And there's
It
a lot
happens
of
every day.
there's a lot of problems with that statement, because maybe it was bad spend, but maybe they just didn't know.
They don't know how to measure it. Yeah, it might be producing results that aren't necessarily sales driven. And if they were more awareness driving tactics, where you're just blowing money on broad match, whatever that is, there might be a lag in that bump that you would see. So, if you're spending a lot on awareness, let's just say I spent only in YouTube for the next month, we're not getting any sales. I wonder why. But then, a month and a half goes by and you're starting to see the incline, because there's that little bit of a lag in regards to recency and frequency. So yeah, you have to be very careful with making kind of trigger decisions like that.
I think small brands can learn something from big brands. Big brands can probably learn something from
So
from
much.
some of the small brands. So I would like, and the very most minimal thing is big brands are willing to spend on awareness, but they also, I think, have more applicable products, meaning like a brand
Yeah.
that sells water or vitamin water. You've got a much larger audience segment than someone who's
Yeah.
looking for colostrum, powder. So like, what are
Yeah.
the? You can tell where things that I've been researching recently. But like, what are
Yeah.
what are some things that or what is one thing that a big brand could take from a small brand, and what's one thing that a small brand could take from a big brand and implement, and it would actually help them to be more efficient or be better?
Michael, good question. I think, well, big brands, they do have I would say, opportunity or luxury of having more expenses to throw at analytics. So a lot of them have like, attribution models and in multi-touch modeling happening, which is their ability to say, yes, I'm stimulating the upper funnel, but I have a statistical relevant number that says it's impacting these other efforts. So they do have that ability because of just their budget, but that doesn't necessarily mean that smaller brands can't take advantage of similar technology with like Google Analytics and Google Ads and things
Like
of
maybe
that
you
nature.
can't afford a
Even
Nielsen,
Amazon.
but you could
Exactly.
go look at Google
But there's
Trends.
an out of the box with Google Analytics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something outside of Google Trends.
Google Analytics has the advertising attribution reporting,
Okay.
which I really like. You actually get to see the touch points. Sometimes it's a little hit or miss because if you're using the free version of Google Analytics.
Okay.
There's also a tool that I like for somewhat mid-sized brands. It's called LeadsRx.
Okay.
LeadsRx is a great brand. I'm gonna send them a text right after this and said that I called them out.
You should.
Great platform. It's relatively cost effective
Okay.
for brands, and you actually get some very good lift analyses from multi-touch attribution. So definitely good there. But when it comes to big brands learning from small brands, I think that big brands definitely don't see the full funnel. They don't. They see branding, and then they see kind of this arbitrary lower of the funnel conversion. And that really depends on, are they selling D2C? Are they selling directly through, I got a little,
I know, I like that.
Are they selling directly to retail? Are they selling, through whole box sellers? So it's really depending on their structure as a business, because it's going to be very difficult if you are only selling in retail to then start to attribute this ad specifically to this in-store purchase that you don't own that store. So you're going to have to do some larger testing around, maybe go dark testing or specific regional tests that allow us to see data from, SBS or any of those other kinds of retail-based data providers. So I would say that they are stimulating upper funnel. Depending on how they're structured in where the actual sales takes place, I think that they could probably bake in some more accountability there in regards to testing and seeing how that impacts their overall sales. So I think that's that.
Okay.
Way. The other bit is smaller brands to larger brands. Learning from larger brands is just invest in a little bit of awareness. Get cheap, tell your story, get in front of folks, and leverage the technology that is available to you out of the box to start actually doing a sustainable marketing program. Because if you're only going after people that are looking up your brand or looking up specific terms that are specific to you, you will run out of steam in about 6 months. That's my prediction.
And eventually you have to fill that pool up, but you also have to start somewhere. I mean, people talk about testing and learning all the time.
If you build it, they will come is not true.
Okay, good to know.
It's not true.
Just you heard it here first. If they build it, they will come. You have to go to where they are, like you said, go to where your audience is and start attracting them. But you have to start somewhere. And I think one of the things that drives me nuts about the service provider space is I feel like some people want you. Maybe this is my own insecurity coming out. I don't think it is, but I'm just willing to say I could be wrong.
Maybe.
I could be wrong on this, but so many people want you to think they are just like, I'm the smartest, I'm the best at what I do, and this takes so much skill. And I think the reality is, you are, but it's not that it's not that you can predict the future when you create a campaign.
Sure.
You're creating a really controlled experiment if you do it right. I do. Yes. My team does a lot of research, and then we test to see if that research is true. So it's not like we're just totally doing all discovery spend. That's a part of it. But we're saying we think this is relevant. Let's test and see, based on what we know about the platform, is it relevant? And then we make adjustments from there. But it's doing those controlled experiments, I think, that really and being able to know when to turn on and turn off, like that to me, I think is what it's really all about. So it is a test and learn component. But I think a lot of people test and they never learn. And that is also a problem.
Because even if it doesn't work, you're learning something.
Exactly. But people don't want to say that. It's like, well, we wasted $5,000. It's like, well.
No, you didn't.
Right. You now know that this term or this audience does not have an affinity to buy your product. So let's not go after them. But how would you know unless you tested?
So my agency runs on a 70-20-10 rule. And so for all of our accounts, we're really running on, this is, I would say, more mature accounts, which accounts that have been running in market for, a handful of years. This is not something that I would recommend for right out of the gate.
Okay.
70-20-10 allows us to be consistently testing. And so 70% of your budget should be on your tried and true workhorse media, right? You know it's going to work. 20% should be looking at your workhorse media and approaching it a little bit differently. Maybe there's a different messaging theme.
Okay.
Maybe there's a different audience that you're layering in. And then that last 10% should be something that is completely test, right? If we spend money on it and it doesn't work, it's okay. And if we spend money on it and it works, great, let's give it more money and roll it into our 20%.
Yeah.
So that 70-20-10 rule allows also your mind to think in that way, that you should always be testing and having that conversation of like, what are we testing this month? And what's working this month? Those are such healthy conversations that if you don't actually put it into your routine, they're going to fall by the wayside, and you're kind of going to get left behind there. But it allows you to, let's test threads, let's test TikTok, let's test this new broad keyword portfolio, whatever it is. So I think that those are all really, really important, that you're not giving yourself the space to test. And that 70-20-10 rule is a good framework to do so.
And that comes back to the expectations piece too. Setting
Yes,
expectation with the client. Hey, here's kind of how we run things. You trust us, 70-20-10. And maybe it's, a little variance.
Well, yeah, it doesn't have to be.
But you get the gist
numbers.
of, we are going to test stuff to see if it works or not. And that's what has allowed us to be successful. And of course, you earn trust in the conversations, but also as you're able to get results. Always. Probably more willing. My guess is brands are more willing to give you more of that 10% budget as they see some of the results. And like, yeah, like let's go and try that new thing, because we never know if it's going to work. But they see the results and they learn to trust you, and so they get excited about that stuff.
100%.
Well, Adam, this has been great. If people want to know more about you and what you're doing, where would they find you? Should they go and look on YouTube, get some of those cheap impressions? Or, where can they find out more about what Adam's doing?
We do have a channel on YouTube, so feel free to check out our channel on YouTube. But also kinetic319.com is our website. We have a very robust set of pages there that can tell you everything about us. But definitely follow us on our socials. So we have Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter as well, or X these days. But we're always posting, and we're also always posting on our blogs, which I actually find them to be very, very actionable. So One of the examples there is we have the Stay Kinetic tip of the week. And so we do one a week, and it's all one of the phrase match bits that we literally just quoted is actually going to be one of our tips for the year. So it's very actionable. It's very, very quick and easy things for you to just say, oh, that's really interesting. But definitely follow us on our socials. There's a lot there. We are also launching a new product here called the Get Moving package in March. So you heard it here first. That is made specifically for small businesses. So if you are a small business in retail, this offering really helps you just get started the best way possible. Because one of my biggest pet peeves is when brands try to go out on their own and build their own Google Ads account and their Google Analytics account, and it's set up incorrectly, and you hear these horror stories about, I blew all this money on Google and it didn't do anything for me, but probably because it wasn't set up the way that it should have been. So the Get Moving package allows for us to build everything for you, in the best way possible, and then just basically hand it back to you, because, you're probably in a position not to bring on an agency full time, but it definitely gets you started on the right foot.
I love that. Well, kinetic319.com, that's a URL that you probably did not have to fight for. I wish that would have been the case for me, but I love that.
It was one penny.
It was one penny. Wow.
It was one penny.
Talk about cheap real estate. Well, thanks so much, Adam, for coming on. You heard it here first, people. Kinetic319, Get Moving package. You got a lot of cool stuff coming out. That's it, everyone. There's no life lesson at the end of this. It's just the end of the show. So we'll see you next time. All right, that was the show. What did you think? That was the longer game. We would love for you to share the show with other people and to leave us a review of the show. So go to iTunes, go to Spotify, even go to YouTube, comment, leave a review, and share this on any social channels that you are active on and wherever you have influence. We want to share this story and stories like it to as many people as possible. Do you have a compelling story and do you want to come on the podcast and talk about it, and you're in the retail industry, then go to thelongergame.com, fill out a form, and we will contact you about coming on the show. You can find us on any social channels, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and you can go to our website, thelongergame.com, to actually read all of these episodes in blog form in text, because we know not everyone's going to listen. This podcast is brought to you by my agency, Cartology. We are a customized, done-for-you service agency that helps brands win on Amazon. It is super complex selling on the Amazon Marketplace. We help simplify that for you. This podcast is also brought to you by Podcastify Me. They are a full-service podcast production company that designs podcasts around people who are paid for their advice. That is coaches. If you want someone to help create, strategize, and distribute your podcast to the masses, go to podcastify.me to find out more. I've so enjoyed that you've been a part of the conversation and that you've given of your time to hear these people's stories. We'd love for you to share. If you want to find out more, just go to thelongergame.com. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Stay blessed. And until next time, cheers.